Welcome back. Welcome to another episode of Nain's Shorts, where we talk about the big questions. Um, I don't know what those questions are yet, but we'll eventually get to them. But until then, we're going to talk about training because that's what we do on a regular basis. We train one way or another, mentally, physically, all these things that go into perfecting something that cannot be perfected. And what do I mean by that? Well, because your body is getting older, you're restricted now from doing some of the things that you used to be able to do, or maybe you're in the best shape of your life because of martial arts. Either way, your body isn't what it was when it started or when you started this journey, depending on how long you've been in it. So a lot of things change. But ultimately, you're still practicing, you're still going forward, you're still keeping your skills sharp as best you can, and you're trying to learn as much as possible, or at least that's my interpretation of. Well, actually, no, it's not even an interpretation, that's literally my journey, or where I happen to be in the middle of. And I started wondering, because I was, or my story is my own individual story into the martial arts, and what my focus and my purpose for training is, has that somehow skewed my point of view from being able to see the legitimacy in other people's arts, in other martial arts that I don't necessarily practice or are even aware that exists? And as I kind of dove deeper into this thought process, I look back at a lot of examples, and even as I go to seminars and other gatherings of such, I start wondering, okay, why is it easy for some people to pick things up when somebody is showing something? Why is it so difficult for another person to pick those things up? Is it really boiled down to just a matter of that perspective? Do we just separate what we know so much from everything else and from what everyone else is doing that we just can't see the connecting points? Is that what's holding us back? And maybe it's not holding us back, but it definitely is keeping us from exploring a larger world. Now, too often when I do go to seminars and I train with people, I find myself with some individual who's very good at, oh, this is very cool stuff, but this is how we would do it in our school. And to each their own. I personally find it a little bit annoying because the instructor is showing us something and I'm doing my best to replicate and learn what it is that they are trying to show us. So sticking on point is really a big thing for me. Now, some people don't even like getting involved because, they understand it, they see it, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, that's cool, oh, I like that, but I don't really need to practice it because there's so many similarities with what they're already doing. And is that really what it breaks down to? If it's similar to what you know and understand, well, then it's easy to pick up and get. But if it's completely different from what you do on a regular basis, then it becomes that much harder. And how does that really happen? And is that just the human thing? Do we do that in all aspects of life where we know what we know so well that anything outside of that seems foreign or alien, and it makes it that much more difficult to kind of see it from that point of view? Imagine all the arguments that we could avoid if we could just say, oh, I see where you're coming from. I don't agree, but I see where you're coming from and I understand your viewpoint. But that's not the case. And even the whole argument part, I don't even want to bother with that because I'm not here to argue with anybody. I just want to learn and get the most out of every experience as I possibly can. So then what are some of the ideas or concepts that we can start applying, that we can start using to kind of make these connections? Because the easier it is to make connections between what we do and what somebody else does, the easier it's going to be to learn it and understand why they're doing what they're doing. Recently, I was at a seminar. I was playing with another instructor whose mindset and point of view is very direct, very to the point. As soon as you make contact, you're going to the end of the situation. So learning something like a sombrado, which is multiple steps, multiple moves back and forth, doesn't make a lot of sense to that person. So how do then we break that barrier? How do we break that idea that, okay, well, yes, this is one aspect of the same thing. Well, understanding, first of all, comes into mind, and that bridge, that gap, is not always there. Sometimes it's a complete chasm, and you can't cross it because we get so stuck on this is the way that I do things, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has their own way of doing things, and as long as it works for you, awesome. And if you need nothing else, even better. But if we're going to acknowledge somebody else's information, well, then we should do our best to understand it as best we can. And the thing about how I was taught, or at least how I was brought up, is that everything comes from the human body. 2 arms, 2 legs. Some exceptions, of course, due to injuries and or other things, but ultimately that's what all martial arts is based off of. Legs, arms, and the mentality that goes into it. Regardless of the country, regardless of the history behind it, regardless of how much it's changed or how it's still the same, it's still based on the human body. So what if we then focus more on understanding how the human body works at a basic level, at the beginning of any or all martial arts, is understanding the mechanics. How does the body move? Why do things work the way they do? Why do locks work the way that they do? Why do arm breaks or elbow breaks work the way that they do? Why does punching one way is more efficient than punching another way? All these things are based on the human body and the mechanical aspects of it. Are there differences? Of course. Height, weight, that makes a difference, which is why in sports there are weight classes, because those extra pounds, huge advantage to somebody, huge disadvantage to somebody else. But still, the human body is still the human body. And more importantly, your body, how your body moves, what your body is capable of and incapable of, would be the next step in understanding how do we adapt ourselves, or how do we adapt any art to what we're capable of doing. Well, first you have to know what it is that you're able to do and not able to do. And sure, there are things you can do to kind of get better at that, stretching exercises, that sort of thing. You can get into better shape than you are now. There are options, but ultimately understanding what you can do and cannot do, oh, that gives you a big upside as to whether or not you can even try the things that you're looking at. If you have terrible knees, guess what? Getting low or rolling on the ground, probably not the best thing for you. But striking, kicking, well, that might work for you very well. So now you know which avenue to take, but you also understand what avenues not to take. And maybe you want to explore little by little those things that you're not good at, those things that your body isn't completely comfortable with doing, and either you can't do it at all or you can find some way to augment it, because again, it's just the human body, and that's all that it takes. So now we have the connection of the mechanics, we understand ourselves. So what next? Well, why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you find yourself learning or gravitating to this particular art or style more so than others? If you understand that why, well, I personally believe that it would be easier to understand why other people gravitate to what they gravitate to. And from my experience, that really opens the door to seeing beyond the physical movements. One, if you put it together with body mechanics as well as your own abilities, and then getting to the understanding of why they're moving the way that they're moving, well, those are 3 connecting points already. And I guess ultimately it falls down to the idea that we are very quick to see the differences in what people are doing versus what we do, and we hardly spend any time looking at what are the similarities. I just gave you one, which was the human body. It's all based off of it. If that's our starting point, and we understand the human body well enough in what we do in our art, then it makes sense that we would then understand why other people are doing what they're doing in their art. And if you don't, well, there's always asking questions. There's a great deal to learn by asking questions, especially with somebody that knows more. learning how to ask those questions in a respectful manner without criticizing or putting down anyone, but genuinely out of curiosity or just because you wish to learn more, is a great way to bridge that gap of understanding. And with the connections that we have nowadays with all the social media, it is that much easier. Granted, social media kind of adds its own dark side to it where people are very quick to be negative and say that shit doesn't work, that's crap, this and that, and just criticize the hell out of everybody instead of actually adding any good information. And even the people that do add good information sometimes come off as complete and utter assholes because the way they speak is absolute. And that's what I mean, and those are the pitfalls that we fall when we can't see beyond what we know, when we can't even fathom understanding somebody else's point of view. And I'm talking right now strictly to the martial arts. This goes way beyond that, but we don't have time for any of that because all I'm trying to do here is learn as much as I can. Hopefully I can add some insight or at least an idea to any of you where you can expand your knowledge base and just get better at what you're doing. Because again, there is no perfection. We just have to constantly keep bettering ourselves based on the circumstances that we find. Because if you're training for self-defense, for real self-defense out in the world where the attacker isn't from your school, doesn't know how to punch the way you do, may be a lot bigger than you, faster, stronger, younger, all the elements that you really can't train for, so you have to adapt in that moment, in real time, and that's ultimately why I train. Your reason is different than that, and just as good, if not better, because it's your reason. All I'm saying is that there's still so much to learn, and if we hold ourselves back with our own prejudice of only seeing things our way, and I'll be the first to admit, I'm guilty of that myself. I've done it. I've been in those situations and done my best to correct that behavior because I don't want to put anyone down. I am not correct at all. At least I think it's good for me, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to sit here and tell you that the way I do things is the best and only way to do things, because it's not. It's just the way that I'm most comfortable with because I know it the best. And still, I'm striving to understand and learn as much as I possibly can, as often as I can, not because I'm looking for something better, but because I feel that everyone has something useful, something good to add. But if we keep ourselves from even considering that possibility, then we're never going to see it to begin with. And I just want to keep on growing and training because it's a lot of fun. And learning new things is always fun. Or at least it is for me. I don't know about you. Thank you for joining me on another one of Nain's Shorts. Just a guy rambling about training. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, share if you think it's worthy. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one. Till then, 3, 2, 1, cut!